Hello again, Ms. Julie here with another story from the Public Library. Beaten by a Balloon by Margaret Mary, illustrated by Jonathan Allen, published by Puffin Books. "Dad," said Sam Appleby as they strolled down Snapper Street, "when we get home, will you make me a sword?" "A sword?" cried Mr. Appleby. "Never. No violent toys in our family." "But, Dad," begged Sam, "Mr. Mackey made Hacky Macky a sword with a red jewel stuck on the handle. And Hacky's already got a plastic dagger as well as a slingshot and a laser gun." "Sam, I'm not giving you swords or laser guns," said Mr. Appleby sternly. "Your mother and I devote our lives to gentle, kindly things like ballooning and growing roses and sunflowers. We hope you'll do the same." "Oh, I like sunflowers and balloons," said Sam, "but I wouldn't mind having a sword as well." "Hey, Apple Tree!" a mocking voice called out. And there was Hacky Macky himself. He was prancing in front of his house, waving a sword in one hand and a plastic laser space gun in the other. "I'm going to catch Buckbounder, the bank robber," yelled Hacky Macky. "I'll win the reward and buy a photon cannon and shoot pieces off the moon. How about that, Apple Tree?" And Hacky made the sound of a laser gun being fired over and over again at hideous aliens. Pew, pew, pew! Mr. Appleby ignored Hacky Macky. "I'll buy you a sunflower of your very own at the stall," he promised Sam. The stall was on the corner of Nashing Road and Cruncher Avenue. It sold almost everything: teddy bears, sunflowers, balloons, water pistols, red and white roses, pots of marmalade, and chocolate cakes. "Dad," pleaded Sam, "could I buy just one little water pistol?" "No violent toys in our family," said his father, "but you may buy a balloon, and I will buy a chocolate cake for your mother, as well as the sunflower I promised you." As the woman behind the stall handed Sam a beautiful sunflower in a terracotta pot, a mocking voice called out, "Ha ha, Apple Tree!" And there was Hacky Macky, wandering past with his father. He aimed his laser gun at the sunflower. "Pew, pew!" "Stop that, Hacky," said Mr. Macky with a smirk. "Poor people, you'll frighten them." The woman in charge of the stall sold the Applebys a balloon and a sunflower and a chocolate cake. She also gave Sam a present of one red rose, its thorny stem wrapped in green tissue. "Now you have a sunflower and a rose," said Mr. Appleby, looking pleased. "But I've spent all my money. We'd better call in at the bank." Turning into Nashing Road Bank, Mr. Appleby and Sam found themselves waiting in a long line. Directly in front of them were Hacky Macky and his father. "Look, Dad, 2 apple trees," said Hacky Macky. Mr. Appleby felt, just for a moment, if he only had had a good plastic sword handy, he would soon have made Mr. Macky laugh out of the other side of his face. Suddenly the door of the bank burst open. "Hands up!" cried a rough voice. "Ha ha ha! It is I, Buckbounder, and this is a bank robbery." Buckbounder bounced into the bank, waving his bank robber's gun and leaping like a kangaroo on powerful springs welded to the bottom of his boots. On these springs he could bound across barriers and through back gardens where no police paddy wagon could go. "Give me all your money!" he howled. "Give it to me now!" Glancing scornfully at Sam's sunflower, he then turned to glare suspiciously at Hacky Macky's laser gun. Both Mackies wailed and fell to their knees. Tearing the green tissue paper from the prickly rose stem, Sam moved quickly behind Buckbounder's back. "Here's my watch and my parking meter money," cried Mr. Macky. "Take them." "And here's my laser gun," wept Hacky Macky. "Take it, take it." At that moment, Sam thrust the thorn into the balloon. The balloon exploded right behind the bank robber. Buckbounder leaped into the air from sheer shock. Losing control of his powerful springs, his head hit the ceiling. His gun flew out of his hand, and he fell backwards with a painful thump. Mr. Appleby promptly struck him in the face with the full force of the chocolate cake. As Buckbounder writhed on the floor, blinded by icing and with cake blacking his hairy nostrils, Sam slid his sunflower out of the terracotta pot and then jammed the pot over the villain's head, painfully pinching his large ears. While Buckbounder whooped and gasped, trying to get his head out of the pot and the cake out of his nose, the bank teller pressed the alarm button. 2 policemen, led by Sergeant Sickup from the Nashing Road Force, which happened to be next door, rushed in with handcuffs. Pulling the pot rather roughly off Buckbounder's head, Sergeant Sickup passed it back to Sam. Brave boy," he cried, shaking Sam's hand. "And you were quick thinking too, sir. I could never have imagined such a masterly assault by chocolate cake." "We were only pretending to be terrified out of our wits," cried Hacky Macky, raising shakily from his knees. "Weren't we, Dad?" "Never have I heard of anyone being so quick with a potted plant," Sergeant Sickup said, ignoring the Mackies. Repot that sunflower, sir. Keep it watered and you'll be able to use it again if you are attacked by gangsters. And call in at the police station next door. We'll give you each a medal and a large reward as well." "Dad, I want a sunflower too," Sam heard Hackey whining as he and his father slunk out of the bank. But his father told him to shut up. "Beaten by a balloon!" cried Buckbounder as the two policemen swept him out of the bank. "Buckbounder, beaten by a balloon! I can't believe it." "Dad, you were really violent with that chocolate cake. Does that mean a cake can be a dangerous weapon?" Sam asked his father in a puzzled voice. Mr. Appleby thought deeply, as fathers do. "Well," he said, "I suppose it depends on who happens to be holding what and when. So perhaps after all I should buy you a small water pistol." "Great!" cried Sam, grinning from ear to ear. "I'll use it to water my sunflower." Thanks for joining us, and I hope you come back for more crafts and stories from the Public Library.